that was kind of the moment, I think, in my undergrad career where I decided, you know what, like, what is a DP? Like, what does that even mean? Like, who's making this movie? Like, why, how did that end up on the screen? Growing up, my grandmother and my grandfather, they would always take photographs whenever they would travel around, and my mother was born in England, and that's where my grandfather was stationed when he was in the war. They moved to the United States later in my mother's life and used to go to New York and travel around the United States and always had pictures, and my grandmother would paste them in photo books. So in growing up, my mom had those books at our house. It was just something I always looked through and was inspired by, so when I had my undergrad, I started to try and take photography courses there. While I was at Loyola, I hadn't really done film. It was always like studying art, going to museums, looking at pictures. I decided to take a film genre course where we watched Broadway Danny Rose and Raging Bull. And so that was like my first experience with watching something and then having a lecture about it. It's just so influential, I think, early on who surrounds you, whether it's in a school program or whether it's on set. But it influences, yeah, your confidence and confidence to tell stories, and it influences who you are as a kind of storyteller. The first time I called Panavision and asked for a favor or some help was when I shot Palo Alto. That was probably the start of the relationship. I probably used Panavision maybe for some like small fashion films prior to that, and they helped me out, and then when that came up, it was a big deal. I ended up shooting with Super Speeds, and I met Rick at the time, Rick Delisle, and we just kept in touch, you know, after that shoot. I need to feel something first before I can make images to make other people feel something. I think that's very important to me. And obviously I'm picking glass that the director is comfortable with and works for his or her story. There's so much personality in the frame when you're shooting anamorphic. Obviously the field of view, I prefer a wider field of view. I enjoy how people are framed in a wider field of view. I feel like when you have a close-up where you have groups of people and maybe one should be focused on, but you can still relate and have context to that one person by having other people, they can be flanked by other people. I tend to like softer glass, vintage glass, fall off on the edges, just to focus the eye, and I center punch most of the time. I always need to have an emotional response to the glass. I always surrounded myself with like-minded people, but with projects I thought would be good for me, right? That I could be trusted and that I could explore and be able to express kind of my, visual language.